This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222. The other side effect that used to be our major concern, the thing that most likely a woman would die from in an IVF cycle, was something called ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, where as we stimulate the ovary to produce lots and lots of eggs, there are those women that produce mega amounts of eggs, like 20 plus. And those women undergo a hormonal change because of the high levels of the hormones and the HCG injection we give to mature the eggs. That combination produces changes in the vascularity of the blood vessels, and they become leaky, and fluid flows into the uterus and into the abdominal cavity and into the lungs, and can cause this hyperstimulation syndrome, can end up with respiratory problems and thrombosis, even blood clots in the brain, and lead to deaths. Now, in Australia, to my knowledge, there have been no deaths from hyperstimulation syndrome, but there are some women who have been handicapped for life because of it. But the big positive is that in the last 5 years in Australia, the number of women requiring hospitalisation for hyperstimulation has more than half gone down. And that's because we now have regimes of drug treatment for IVF which avoids hyperstimulation syndrome. A decade ago, something like 1,500 women a year were being admitted to hospital with hyperstimulation syndrome. Today, it's less than 600. So it's been a major advance. And in terms of safety for women and their IVF cycles, it has changed the world. And it's all about the trigger injection, the injection given to mature the eggs prior to their being collected. If you use HCG, which was the old method of doing things, you run that risk of hyperstimulation syndrome. If you use the agonist trigger, it's called agonist trigger, it eliminates hyperstimulation syndrome, even in women at high risk. It does have one downside in that you cannot replace the embryos in that cycle. You've got to freeze them all and put them back in the following cycle. It delays things by about 21 days. So it's certainly not the end of the world, but what it does do is keep you out of hospital. Now, that use of that and that agonist trigger can only happen if you've used a short cycle. So doctors that continue to use the old-fashioned long protocol won't be able to avoid hyperstimulation. And indeed, most of the cycles now where women end up in hospital with hyperstimulation are because their specialists are using the old-fashioned technique of long down regulation. I suppose the other downside is the psychological issues. And certainly going through an IVF cycle and failing is a very psychologically demanding situation, where we build you up to believe that you're the one that's going to get pregnant, and then the period comes or your HCG result comes back and it's low and you're not pregnant. After all that build-up over the previous month, all being positive, we've got eggs, we've got embryos, we've put the embryo back, and then you're not pregnant. And that psychological toll is one of the major reasons why couples don't go on with IVF treatment, that handling that failure is quite difficult. All clinics have to have a counselling process available to patients. A lot of patients don't avail themselves on that, and they should, because it does support you through that up and down that comes with the roller coaster ride of IVF. So I hope that covers all the issues that can become a problem or not, and the not is the main thing, because mostly, by far, the vast majority of cycles go through without any major problems.
And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website www.theivfjourney.com and select IVF Journey podcast from the navigation menu.